Unlike stocks and bonds, you can actually see it, you can touch it, you can walk past it. It is a tangible asset. No chasing of rents. It's truly passive income. No legal paperwork, no long waiting times, no tenants calling you at ungodly hours because the boiler is broken. Last year, data showed that approximately 40% of working age people are at the risk of not being able to fund their basic needs in retirement, while over 38% of adults aged 40 to 75 have no private pension savings, which means that they will be solely reliant on state pensions in retirement. This is what's known as retirement poverty. So unless you are born into generational wealth or you have a handsome pension pot waiting for you, planning for retirement is very important. And I think that the question we should all be asking ourselves is, are we prepared, or at least preparing towards retirement? Whether you are planning for early retirement or retirement at the official age, here are 5 major assets that could fund your lifestyle in retirement. I'll share what their primary roles are in a well-structured retirement investment portfolio, their benefits as well as the risks, so you can choose which combination will best maximize your returns and minimize your risks. The first important asset is cash. So cash might not be very exciting, but in a well-structured retirement investment portfolio, cash is essential. I personally have between 3 to 5% of my portfolio in cash at any given time. And the primary role of cash is to provide liquidity and immediate access to your funds. So think of cash as your portfolio's safety net, which means that you don't have to sell your investments at the worst possible moment. Now, when I talk about cash, I'm not talking about cash that you keep in your wall or perhaps in a safe in your home. I'm talking about cash that works just as hard as your other investments. So cash in a high yield savings account or in a short or medium term money market fund that may yield slightly higher than a traditional savings account. And here are some of the benefits of holding cash in your retirement portfolio. Well, the obvious one is instant access. You can use it immediately, no waiting and no selling of assets. Second is stability. Cash doesn't fluctuate like stocks or other assets. $1 stays $1. The third benefit is that cash acts as an emergency buffer. So it protects the rest of your investments from being touched when life throws surprises at you, like medical or dental emergencies, the car needs fixing, you want to help family or friends, and so on. But there are also trade-offs to holding cash in your portfolio. The first drawback of cash is inflation risk. So over time, cash loses something called purchasing power. And that basically means that cash loses its ability to buy the things it used to buy in the past. And here are some interesting data points to back this up. $1,000 in the 1970s is equivalent in purchasing power to around $8,242 today. That means that $1 million in the 1970s is equivalent to $8.2 million today. The dollar has had an average inflation rate of around 3.9% per year between 1970 and today. This means that today's prices are 8 times as high as the average prices since 1970. So put another way, a dollar today can only buy 12% of what it could back then. And this graph shows you how inflation has eroded the value of the dollar over time. It shows that $1,000 in the 1970s is now worth around $114 today. What you can buy with $1,000 today won't be the same as you can buy 10 or 20 years from today. The second risk is that cash offers very low returns, especially when inflation is low. And this is because central banks use interest rates to control inflation and the money supply in the economy. So when inflation is high, interest rates rise and more people save, which soaks up some of that liquidity in the system, and eventually inflation falls. So cash won't grow your wealth. It mainly preserves it, and even that is a challenge when you factor in inflation. Moving on to the second important asset in a retirement account, stocks. The primary role of stocks or equities is to generate a long-term growth in your money through increase in value or capital appreciation. Stocks or equities, as they're sometimes called, are the backbone of most investment portfolios. They help investors accumulate wealth over time. Think about stocks as the engine of your retirement portfolio. If your portfolio were a car, then equities or stocks are actually what pushes you forward over time. When you buy stocks in companies like Apple or Microsoft, or you buy ETFs, you're not just parking your cash somewhere. You're actually owning a tiny percentage or a tiny piece of businesses that consistently try to grow, innovate, and make profits. And as they grow, your investment grows. But on the flip side, if they don't perform well or they go bust, you could lose some or all of your money. Now, retirement isn't just about saving money. It's about outpacing inflation. Earlier, I showed some numbers that really speak to how vicious the impact of inflation can be on your money. If you simply stash cash in a low interest savings account where the interest rate isn't tangibly higher than inflation, then your savings will increasingly afford you less and less things over time. So think about what prices will be like 20 or 30 years from today. Which brings me to the first benefit of stocks. Stocks can help solve this problem because historically, they've delivered higher returns than most other asset classes over the long run. The second advantage of stocks is that as a stockholder, you get to participate in the company's growth and its profitability. If the company grows and increases its revenue, the share price tends to increase, resulting in capital gains when you actually sell your position. The third advantage, which is one of my favorites, is income generation through dividends. A dividend is a portion of a company's profits that it gives back to you for holding its shares. This can provide a really nice, steady stream of income, which can be taken as cash or reinvested to buy more shares, and therefore this increases your portfolio even more. I posted a detailed video on dividend investing and how I personally use it to fund my lifestyle now that I've stepped away from a 9-to-5, and I will link it below. The fourth advantage is that most stocks are highly liquid, which means that you can buy and sell them fairly quickly and access your funds when needed. As great as all of that sounds, there are some key risks that you should be aware of. Stocks are volatile. Stock prices can fluctuate significantly in the short term due to market sentiments or economic factors or even global events like we're seeing in different parts of the world today. And so if you had to sell when markets are down, it could potentially lead to losses. The second thing is risk of loss. There's always a risk of losing some or all of the capital that you've invested, especially if the company you invest in performs poorly. And unlike some bonds that are considered safe, stocks do not guarantee returns. Thirdly, investing in stocks, especially if you decide to pick stocks for yourself, that requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of time, a lot of patience to research and monitor investments regularly. And fourthly, on the emotional side, there are ups and downs that come with investing in the stock market. It can be very stressful, especially for new and even sometimes seasoned investors. Now, the key to managing risks when you invest in the stock market is diversification. So instead of putting all your money into one company or one country, you can spread it out by investing in ETFs or index funds or mutual funds, which are essentially a basket of different stocks in one investment. I shared a detailed video on all of these three types of investments and which might be best for you and why, and I will also link that below. So think of diversification as not relying on one source of income. If one struggles, others will pick up the slack. The third asset is bonds. The primary role of bonds in a portfolio is to generate income and protect your capital. So still using the car analogy, if stocks are the engine, bonds are the shock absorbers. When you invest in bonds, you are essentially lending money to governments like the UK government or the US government, or to companies like IBM, Nvidia, or Apple. In return, they agree to pay you regular interest. It's like a paycheck, and then return your original money at the end of the life of the bond. I absolutely love bonds, and I have a chunky part of my investment in bonds. Bonds add an additional layer of security to your investments, particularly for conservative investors, i.e. those who are more risk averse, or even those who are closer to retirement. But I have to say, however, that bonds are boring. They don't give you the thrilling highs of the stock market, but they also don't give you the same stomach-dropping lows. And when you're thinking about retirement and what sort of investment you'd like to have, that kind of stability becomes incredibly valuable. When you are younger, you can afford to ride the highs and the lows of stock markets, but as you get closer to retirement, your priorities may shift. You want to protect what you've actually built, so that your wealth can fund your lifestyle, and this is where bonds really shine. And so following on nicely from there, let's talk about the benefits of bonds. The first benefit is steady income. Bonds can feel like a monthly or quarterly or semi-annual paycheck from your portfolio, and this is especially helpful in retirement when you're no longer earning a salary. The second advantage is that they are generally less volatile or less risky than stocks. Bond prices do move up and down, but they don't swing as much as stocks, which makes your investments less stressful to watch. The third advantage is that they can serve as a cushion during economic downturns. So when markets drop or there is an economic recession, bonds, well, especially high quality government bonds, tend to soften the blow, and they serve as what's called a flight to safety asset, because investors tend to sell high risk investments like stocks, and then they move the capital into bonds, and that action in turn increases the prices of bonds during this period. And lastly, bonds are emotionally friendlier than stocks. They don't raise your blood pressure like stocks, cryptos, or even derivatives do. Now moving on to the disadvantages or the risk of bonds, because yes, there are risks. The first one is that they generally offer lower potential returns than equities or stocks, again, because of the risk-rewards trade-off. Secondly, bonds are very sensitive to interest rates changes. When interest rates rise, existing bond prices tend to fall. It's one of those behind-the-scene mechanisms that actually surprises a lot of people. And I've shared a very detailed video on bonds, and I don't want to make this video too long, but the bottom line is that there are some very safe bonds and there are some very risky bonds and everything between. Again, I will link this below, so if you are interested in bonds, the video explains exactly what you need to know. The fourth important asset in a retirement account is income-producing property. Andrew Carnegie, who was a famous and very wealthy industrialist, once said, 90% of all millionaires become so through owning real estate. I can't remember one single ultra-wealthy client or family that I worked with who didn't own multiple real estate. Not one. However, it is important to make the distinction between income-generating and non-income generating real estate. Income generating real estate includes things that you lease out for rent, things like residential properties, for example, single family homes or HMOs, which are house of multiple occupancies, commercial properties. Non-income generating real estate includes things like your main residence if you don't rent a portion of it out. Things like raw land, vacant land, or even vacation homes that are not rented out. Now, the primary role of real estate is to generate income and provide long-term appreciation, while also helping to protect your investment against inflation. Property or real estate is one of those assets that just feels tangible. Unlike stocks and bonds, you can actually see it, you can touch it, you can walk past it. It's a building, it's a flat, it's a house, it's something real. And for many people, this makes it one of the most emotionally reassuring parts of any investment portfolio. And here are some reasons why the rich love this asset class and it is a good addition to an investment portfolio. Number one, it has reliable income potential. Receiving rents net of mortgage payments and estate agent fees can actually produce lucrative and consistent cash flows, which is especially valuable in retirement. Secondly, well, this is more of an emotional point, but it is a tangible asset. It feels more real than numbers on a screen, which many people find very reassuring. Thirdly, it produces a level of inflation protection. When inflation rises, rents tend to go up as well. Also, property values tend to increase over time. So instead of inflation working against you like it does with cash, property can actually work in your favor, and it's one of the reasons that this asset is often seen as a natural hedge against inflation. Now, there are some very important drawbacks of investing in property, and I would argue more so today than ever before. The first obvious one is that property is less liquid than any of the other investments that I've mentioned so far. You can't easily sell a property overnight if you need cash. Property takes time. The second drawback is that if you truly want passive income and you don't believe in outsourcing work, then property may not be the right investment for you. Maintaining rental properties is a lot of work, from managing tenant relationships to maintenance to legal and compliant landlording, it's a lot. So if you don't want the hassle or the stress of managing properties, an estate agent may be your best option. Number 3 is maintenance costs, repairs, taxes, insurance, estate agent fees, it all adds up. And number 4, and this is a very important one, laws can change that adversely affect you. If you're a landlord in the UK right now, you know what I'm referring to with the new Renters' Rights Act coming into effect in less than 3 weeks. As a side note, if you are a UK landlord, there is an important information sheet that you need to send to your tenants by the 31st of next month or risk being fined up to £7,000. I will link this below. Not everyone wants to be a landlord, which brings me to asset number 5, REITs. So when it comes to investing in real estate, you have options. The first option is direct ownership, buying a physical property to rent out like I explained earlier. And the second option is property funds or REITs. REITs stands for Real Estate Investment Trusts. So a REIT is a company that owns or manages income producing property, and it pays out most of its profits as income or dividends to investors or shareholders. So when you invest in a REIT, you essentially own a slice of a large property portfolio. And they are interesting and appealing because they combine two worlds: the income potential of property investing and the simplicity of investing in stocks. You can buy and sell them just like stocks. You don't need a massive deposit, no legal paperwork, no long waiting times, no tenants calling you at ungodly hours because the boiler is broken, no chasing of rents. It's truly passive income. The second advantage is that you get diversification made easy. So instead of putting all of your money into one property in one location, REITs help you spread your investments across multiple properties, different sectors, and locations. And so if one property struggles, it doesn't sink your entire investment. Thirdly, REITs are highly liquid. You can buy and sell REITs instantly, unlike physical property that can take months and sometimes years to exit. However, as with other types of investments, there are some disadvantages to be aware of. The first one is that REITs are exposed to stock market ups and downs. Because REITs trade like stocks, their prices can fluctuate daily, even if the underlying properties are stable. Secondly, there is a loss of control when you invest in REITs. You are essentially trusting the management company's decisions, and you don't get to pick the properties yourself. There might be locations or sectors that you're not very keen on, but well, you just have to roll with the punches. Now, there are, of course, other assets that you can invest in. Things like direct or private investments, owning but not operating a business, private equity, hedge funds, commodities, etc. But for the most part, these 5 core assets can create a good retirement investment portfolio. And by understanding each asset, what primary function it serves in your retirement funding, you can start planning towards retirement and investing your hard-earned money in a way that helps you live the life you want or you dream of in retirement and hopefully avoid retirement poverty. I'll see you in the next one. Look after yourselves. Bye.